Greetings, my name is Helen. I'm a 32-year-old woman, and I recently went through a divorce. The reason for my divorce was that my now ex-husband betrayed my trust. Despite the painful circumstances, there was a silver lining, which I'll get to shortly, but let me start at the beginning of our story. I met Austin at a bar during a work party he was attending. He came over to talk to me, and we spent the entire evening together. At that time, I often felt unsure of myself, so his attention was a significant boost to my confidence. After that night, we went on several dates. I discovered he was 7 years my senior, which didn't bother me. I've always been drawn to older men. Austin turned out to be even more charming than he was at the bar, and our relationship grew stronger with each date. As our connection deepened, I shared with him my lifelong dream of owning a home. Living far from my parents and tired of renting, I was determined to achieve this goal. With financial help from my parents for half of the down payment and a lot of hard work on my part for the other half, I was getting closer to making this dream a reality. 3 years into our relationship, Austin and I got married in a small, intimate ceremony attended by our closest friends and family. It was a beautiful day, and our marriage flourished afterward. It never crossed my mind that Austin could be unfaithful. Throughout this time, I developed a wonderful relationship with Austin's mother, Kelly. She treated me like the daughter she never had, making me feel loved and reducing the sting of being away from my own family. Her support was invaluable, especially when I finally managed to buy my house. I celebrated this milestone with Austin and Kelly, who both seemed genuinely happy for me. However, Austin's insistence on handling the house keys himself struck me as odd. This story took an unexpected turn when I discovered Austin's infidelity, which not only ended our marriage but also taught me about resilience and self-worth. Despite the heartache, this ordeal brought some positive changes, shaping a new path for my future. I didn't think much of it initially because I assumed Austin just wanted to help out and lighten my load a bit. Looking back, it seems naive, but at the time it made sense to me. Over the next year, Austin and I enjoyed a blissful life. We had our own house to decorate and renovate as we pleased, and these projects brought us closer, or so I thought. We spent countless hours together, and I believed our relationship was thriving. Then, out of nowhere, Kelly called me one day. "Hi, Helen," she began hesitantly. "Hey, Kelly, what's up? Why the sudden call?" I don't know how to say this gently. I have some shocking news. Can you sit down for this?" "Sit down? What's wrong? Are you okay?" "Yes, I'm fine. It's just, this might devastate you, and I want you to be careful." Kelly's tone alarmed me. "You're scaring me, Kelly. What's going on?" "Okay, so I overheard Austin talking on the phone during your last brunch at our place. He spoke in such a lovey-dovey way, and I knew it couldn't be you on the other line since you were right there in the house." "Oh, I stammered, unsure of what to think. Kelly continued, "I started snooping. I know it's wrong, but I couldn't stand the thought of my son being dishonest. I made up an excuse and checked his emails. I found out he's been cheating on you with not just one, but 2 other women." "What? How could he do this to me?" I felt a mix of anger and despair. "I'm so sorry, Helen. I know this doesn't help much, but I am ashamed of Austin. I can't believe he would do this." I was heartbroken, barely able to speak. Wasn't I enough for him? He had to go and betray me with 2 other women? "Oh, honey, this isn't about you not being enough. No one deserves this, least of all you. But there's more, and I'm afraid it's even worse." "What else is there?" I braced myself for more bad news. "It turns out Austin made copies of your house keys and gave them to his affair partners." My mind reeled as the reality of the situation hit me. I felt betrayed on so many levels. I wanted to confront Austin immediately, but my emotions were everywhere. Instead of lashing out at Kelly, a victim in her way, I took a deep breath, trying to process the earth-shattering revelations she had just shared. Despite the bombshell Kelly had dropped, I wasn't angry at her. My anger was directed squarely at Austin. He had tarnished something beautiful. Our home, a place I had worked tirelessly to make my own. How dare he disrespect it and me in such a profound way? My mind raced with a flurry of thoughts, my emotions a chaotic whirlwind. Nothing made sense anymore, but one thing was clear. I needed to confront Austin directly. I had no doubts about Kelly's honesty. Her love for me was genuine, and that was precisely why she had revealed her son's betrayal. "Helen, darling, are you still there?" Kelly's voice broke through my turmoil. "Yes, I'm here, just trying to process all of this. I don't know what to do next. I'm just so overwhelmed with anger and pain." "I might have an idea if you're open to it," Kelly suggested with a hint of resolve. "Oh, what is it?" "What if we get a bit of revenge on Austin before you divorce him? Let him feel some of the pain he's caused." I hesitated for only a moment before responding. "I love it. I'm fully on board with that." Kelly continued. "Also, I reached out to the 2 women Austin was involved with. Turns out neither knew about the other, and they didn't know he was married. So, he was cheating on all 3 of us at the same time? That's a new low, even for him," I said, my voice a mix of disgust and disbelief. "Yes, and I was wondering if you'd be okay with letting these women in on our little revenge plan?" "That's perfect. Austin has a business trip this weekend across the city, or so he claims. I checked with both of them, and neither has plans to see him soon." "Great. Hopefully there isn't another woman involved, but let's invite the other 2 over and we can discuss everything," I suggested, feeling a strange sense of camaraderie forming between us victims of Austin's deceit. Kelly and I talked a bit more, and her presence was comforting. Although I hadn't started crying, the shock had numbed me, and it would take some time to fully process my emotions. They oscillated between anger, sadness, and sheer hurt. Kelly's soothing voice helped steady me a bit. She also advised us on how to act normally around Austin until his business trip, giving us some time to organize our plan. Her support during this tumultuous time was invaluable, and together, we started to forge a plan of subtle retribution. Managing my emotions was proving to be a huge challenge. If I was barely holding myself together around Kelly, how could I possibly keep my cool in front of Austin? Yet, deep down, I knew I had to do it. I had to make Austin feel the same panic and pain that had torn through me when I discovered his betrayal. When Austin came home that evening, I interacted with him as usual, though every smile and laugh from him stirred a fury within me. When he kissed me goodnight, I fought the urge to recoil, feeling a mix of disgust and hurt. That night, I cried myself to sleep, overwhelmed by the deception. The next morning, I put on a brave face. Austin needed to suspect nothing was amiss. I bid him goodbye as if everything was normal. Soon after, Kelly called to ask if she and the other women involved with Austin could come over. I agreed, and within an hour, they were at my house. Seeing the other women in person was startling. Both were notably young, with one in particular appearing alarmingly so. I silently hoped she was of legal age, fearing the worst about Austin's actions. Kelly greeted me with a tight hug, her own eyes brimming with tears, and I had to muster all my strength not to break down alongside her. We all sat down in the living room to share our experiences. The younger-looking woman introduced herself as Barbara. She reassured me she was 24, which relieved some of my concerns. The other was Emma, aged 22. Learning that Austin had been with someone 14 years his junior was a hard pill to swallow. Emma revealed she had been with Austin for about a year, meaning their affair began shortly after we got married. The realization that he had been unhappy from the first year of our marriage was a painful revelation. Emma met Austin at a bar where he had been very forward about his intentions. Barbara shared a similar story. She met Austin 8 months ago, also at a bar. He had plied both of them with drinks and insisted on staying by their side throughout the night, making them somewhat uncomfortable. As we talked, I struggled with a whirlwind of emotions, from anger to sadness and back to hurt. Despite the chaos inside me, hearing their stories was a crucial step in understanding the full extent of Austin's betrayal and figuring out how to confront this deceit. It seems Austin had a talent for drawing in those who felt insecure. These women were captivated by the attention he showered on them, leading them to believe they had stumbled upon something truly special. As they shared their stories with me, it became clear just how calculated Austin had been. They recounted visits he made to their places and how he'd often stay the night, explaining his absences to me as business trips. As we talked more about Austin's tactics, it dawned on us just how skillfully he had manipulated each of us. Being the oldest, I shared how he initially won me over with his charm and attentiveness, a sentiment echoed by Emma and Barbara. As the conversation deepened, we realized he had replicated the same strategies with all of us. If he sent flowers to one, the others would receive the same. It was nauseating to think about. All the moments I felt cherished and unique, it turned out I was merely one of several women he was juggling. The realization hit us hard. I felt utterly betrayed, and by the looks on Emma and Barbara's faces, they were just as shocked. We sat in stunned silence, each of us processing the depth of Austin's deceit. It was Kelly who finally broke the quiet. Wow, okay, so my son is truly reprehensible. But we're not here just to dwell on that, she sighed, her voice a mix of anger and disappointment. Kelly, no, I get it, I reassured her. I know we all feel deeply hurt and betrayed. Kelly continued, her tone reflective. I may not have the same relationship with my son now, but I too feel these emotions. Sometimes I can't help but think maybe I failed somewhere as a parent. You were and are an amazing parent, Kelly. You instilled good values in him, but at the end of the day, the choices he made were his own. He's a grown man, fully responsible for his actions, I said, trying to offer some comfort. Thanks, sweetie, Kelly replied, but the real question remains, what are we going to do about this? That question hung in the air, heavy with implication. We needed a plan, not just for the sake of revenge, but for our closure and moving forward from the pain Austin had caused. What we decided next would set the course for how we dealt with the betrayal we had all suffered at his hands. Feeling a mix of anger and betrayal, I couldn't help but voice my frustration. I want to beat him up. I can't believe I wasted a whole year on this jerk, I vented. I second the idea of beating him up. Cheating is just unforgivable, Emma added, her tone fierce. While part of me agreed, I knew that physical confrontation wouldn't solve anything. Look, I understand the urge, but that won't help us. We need a strategy that makes him feel the panic and betrayal we've endured, I proposed, trying to steer us toward a more constructive plan. Okay, how about this? Barbara suggested with a hint of scheming in her voice. I'll call him this weekend and tell him I'm at your place, Helen. I could do the same, Emma chimed in, and since he'll be away, he'll be freaking out about us meeting. And what if he does manage to rush back? I added. He'll find us here just hanging out, looking like we're the best of friends. That will make him sweat. That's brilliant, Barbara exclaimed. Then Helen, you can hit him with the divorce papers, and well, if the moment calls for it, maybe a little more than just papers. I won't stop you, I laughed, half serious. And here's the kicker, we signed a prenup, so when we get divorced, he'll end up with nothing. Hearing this seemed to lift everyone's spirits. He deserves nothing, and I'm glad he'll get just that, Emma said, a satisfied grin spreading across her face. With our plan taking shape, I felt a surge of empowerment. Let's get the divorce filed, and then we'll iron out the rest of the details. We still had a couple of days before Austin's trip. Somehow, I found the self-control and patience to maintain my composure around him. Despite every instinct urging me to confront him, I managed to keep up the act. The pain was subsiding, replaced by a sense of solidarity. I wasn't alone in this. Emma, Barbara, and Kelly were with me, and we were all hurting together. We created a group chat to stay connected and updated. Austin had never shown any interest in my phone, which I now realized might have been due to his distractions elsewhere. Whenever Austin was at work, Kelly would come over and we'd visit the law firm to file for divorce and get the papers printed. By the time Austin was set to leave, everything was in place. Barbara, Emma, and Kelly came over about an hour after Austin left. We spent the time just hanging out, sharing our feelings, and finding comfort in our united front. It felt good not to be alone in this ordeal. Together, we were strong, and together we would face whatever came next. In an odd and twisted way, we all felt a deep connection through this ordeal. Kelly provided us with incredible support and a solid shoulder to lean on. Despite her pain, she never overshadowed ours, recognizing the different layers of our hurt. It was comforting to have someone who understood and empathized with our situation. After confirming Austin had reached his destination, I gave Emma the green light to make her move. She eagerly picked up her phone and dialed Austin, putting him on speaker so we could all hear. Austin's voice betrayed his surprise at her call. Playing her part perfectly, Emma bubbled over with excitement, telling him she was about to drop by with a special surprise. Austin's response was tinged with panic. He tried persuading her not to come, but Emma was firm, ending the call with a promise to see him soon. About 30 minutes later, Barbara made her call. This time, Austin's tone was sharp and edgy. When Barbara cheerfully announced she was just 30 minutes away and planned to wait inside for him, his anxiety escalated. He attempted to dissuade her, repeating he was out of town, but Barbara cut him off, claiming she was too tired to delay and wanted to rest, hanging up before he could respond. The adrenaline that surged through me after these calls was exhilarating. Imagining Austin's mounting panic brought a rush of mixed emotions, happiness, and grim satisfaction. I was eager to see his expression when he realized the trap we had set. With the major part of our plan executed, we decided to unwind a bit with some drinks, anticipating the moment Austin would walk through the door. As the alcohol lightened our spirits, we couldn't help but laugh at Austin's foolishness for giving keys to my home to both women, not realizing I often worked from home. As we waited, there was a subtle shift in the room. Somewhere between the laughter and planning, a healing process began. We started to see the truth about Austin more clearly and accept the reality of who he was. This realization was unexpectedly refreshing. About 2 hours after our coordinated calls, we heard the familiar sound of Austin's car pulling into the driveway. The moment we had been waiting for was finally here. As we prepared to confront him, there was a sense of anticipation mixed with a newfound strength among us. The next few moments would be revealing, but no matter the outcome, we knew we had each other for support. As Austin's car pulled into the driveway, our anticipation was almost palpable. Despite being quite tipsy, Kelly reminded us to compose ourselves. We hastily tried to sober up, arranging our expressions and steeling ourselves for the confrontation. We were ready to face Austin and expose his deceit. Austin burst through the door with an urgency that suggested he sensed something was amiss. "Babe, what's going on here?" "Oh, I invited your mom over," I said nonchalantly, masking my nerves with feigned surprise at his early return. "That's cool, but what about the other people here?" Austin stammered, his eyes darting between the unfamiliar faces in his living room. "Them?" I gestured towards Emma and Barbara. These lovely women just showed up at my place and it turns out they know you, so I invited them in. You never told me you had such a pretty wife, I added, the irony thick in my voice. Me either, chimed in Barbara, her tone equally mocking. Maybe it's time you leave, Austin tried to dismiss them, his voice edging towards desperation. Don't be rude, Austin, Kelly scolded, stepping forward. I taught you better. Besides, we were just having a girls' night. Why are you here? Yeah, why are you here? I pressed, feigning ignorance. I thought you were away on a business trip. Is that why you couldn't spend time with me this weekend, even though we always get together every third weekend? Oh my God, he does that with you too? Emma exclaimed, then looked at Barbara, who nodded in agreement. Me too. Look, guys, I don't want to hear anything. I just want you out of my house. Austin's voice cracked as he started to realize the gravity of the situation. That's when I saw Austin cry for the first time. He began sobbing, pleading with me not to leave him. His tears, however, didn't elicit sympathy from me. Instead, they intensified my disgust. Silently, I rose from my seat, walked over to him, and handed him the divorce papers. Austin was a mess. He turned to his mother for support, but Kelly simply looked away, her disappointment evident. When he tried to appeal to her, she coldly told him, "You're dead to me." Watching Austin lose everything he had taken for granted was a profound moment of vindication. Emma and Barbara didn't physically confront him, but they made their point by throwing the copies of the house keys he had given them right at his face before they turned and left the house. As they departed, the weight of his choices was clear on his face. A man who had lost everything, stripped of deception and deceit. The sight was strangely satisfying, marking the end of a painful chapter and the beginning of a new, more hopeful one for us all. I had a bag already packed for him, anticipating this moment. Grabbing it, I tossed it at him and said sternly, "You have 10 minutes to leave or I'm calling the police." He hesitated for a moment, then grabbed the bag and left. As the door closed behind him, the weight of everything that had transpired seemed to crash down on me all at once. I sank to the floor and finally let the tears flow freely. Kelly sat beside me, and together we cried over the loss of someone who had once been so dear to both of us. An hour after Austin left, my phone started to explode with his calls and messages. Each text he sent seemed more desperate than the last, but they only served to confirm how delusional he was about the situation. Over the next few months, my divorce proceedings moved forward. Kelly stood by me like a pillar of strength. Austin, driven by spite, tried his best to contest the divorce and wring something out of the settlement. Fortunately, the prenup we had signed was bulletproof, leaving him with nothing but a hefty legal bill. Following the divorce, Kelly and I didn't keep track of what became of Austin. The one truly positive outcome from this whole ordeal was the bond I formed with Emma and Barbara. Once everything was finalized, we went out to a bar in a celebratory gesture, a final nod to our collective liberation from Austin. That night, we grew closer, finding laughter and camaraderie in our shared experiences. Despite the topic still being somewhat tender, we managed to see the humor in our situation. This entire experience taught me a lot about life's unpredictable nature. Yet, it also showed me that with the right people by your side, every unexpected turn has the potential to lead to something beautiful. Together, we turned a painful chapter into the beginning of a new friendship filled with support, laughter, and understanding.